A mutation is changes to the genetic material of an organism, more specifically, its nucleic acids, or the sequences of the paired nucleotides, A, T, C, and CG, that make up the DNA. Nucleic acids are directly affected, and because they make up the DNA that makes up our genes, that in turn code for proteins, genetic traits of organisms are directly affected. If radiation hits an organism and breaks the nucleic acid sequence, repair will naturally occur by the cell, but may result in the addition of an extra base, or the radiation can overall delete individual bases. Disruptions in the regular DNA sequence affect the transcription RNA sequences, which directly code for amino acids.
Genetic drift, a random change in allele frequencies. It happens in any small population and commonly occurs in situations such as the bottleneck and founder effect. In the founder effect, it's a small group known as founders, and what they do is they get away from their parent group. So in the picture on the board, the circle on the left shows the parent group, and on the right is where they escape from the parent group. They establish themselves in a new area, which is in a different species, and then they will establish a new populations ratio. The bottleneck effect, this is the result of a big reduction of population where there are survivors. On the board shows 3 stages of the bottleneck effect. On the first one, it's the original population where you see like all these colors representing the population. The second stage is where the bottleneck is occurring, and right here on the board you see the bottle upside down and the little circles being poured into the jar, and this is where reduction is occurring. And the last stage is where you see the survivors from the reduction of the population.
Gene flow, also called gene migration, is the introduction of genetic material from one population of a species to another, thereby changing the composition of the gene pool of the receiving population. The introduction of new alleles through gene flow increases variability within the population and makes possible combinations of traits. In human beings, gene flow usually comes about through the actual migration of human populations, either voluntary or forced. Assortative mating is a mating pattern and form of sexual selection in which individuals with similar phenotypes mate with one another more frequently than would be expected on the random mating pattern. Some examples of similar phenotypes are body size, skin coloration/pigmentation, and age. Assortative mating, also referred to as a positive sort of mating or homogamy, can increase genetic relatedness within the family.
Disordered mating it increases the frequency of heterozygotes. These phenotypes like individuals who have different traits in them.
Natural selection is one of the most important mechanisms of evolution, which Charles Darwin introduced. A famous example of natural selection is England in the early 1800s at the start of the Industrial Revolution. The white-peppered moth population, with the ability to camouflage in the white trees, had the advantage over black moths, whose phenotype pigmentation only accounted for 2% of the entire population. This is because their color stood out from the trees, hence they were preyed on easily. This was until the trees turned black due to the coal-powered factories. They spewed soot into the air, and of course the black moths, matching the pigment of the trees, were able to camouflage, withstanding predators unlike the white moths, which could easily be picked out. This is what natural selection is. The process by which certain inherited traits make it easier for some individuals to thrive and multiply, changing the genetic makeup of populations over time.